I'm not ashamed.
What will happen to the righteous when Christ comes again? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Matthew on walking through the Bible.
His word, the glory of his cross.
If you have a Bible with you, you can turn to Matthew chapter 25. We're going to be reading from verses 31 to 40. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Matthew chapter 25, beginning at verse 31. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the holy angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them one from another as the shepherd divides his sheep from the goats. And he will set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right hand, Come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothe you? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? And the king will answer and say to them, Assuredly I say to you, inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these my brethren, you did it to me. It can be very easy to forget the context of this passage, but remember it starts all the way back at the beginning of chapter 24. For all of chapter 24 and this chapter so far, Jesus is speaking privately with the disciples. We can learn lessons over their shoulder that are revealed to us by Matthew, but let's never forget the context. Jesus discussed the destruction of Jerusalem as well as his second coming, two separate events in chapter 24. He then spent the last part of chapter 24 and all of chapter 25 thus far discussing the importance of being ready for Christ's return, for we do not know when that's going to be. He told the parable of the 10 virgins and the parable of the talents to illustrate this point. So now he reveals to the disciples why is it important to wait by showing them that there will be a judgment day when he comes again. Jews at that time and people today are looking for an earthly kingdom to begin when Christ comes again, but that's not the picture Jesus presents here. He will return along with his holy angels, and he will sit on the throne of his glory. Now, from this passage alone, that throne could be in heaven or on earth. But after reading 2 Peter 3, verse 10, and Revelation 20, 11 to 14, we find that this throne is in heaven. All nations will stand before the throne, meaning all people who have ever lived, both Jew and Gentile, slave and free, male and female. What will be going on is that he will separate people into two groups, signified here as dividing sheep from goats. Those who he described as sheep will be on the right hand, and those who he described as goats will be on the left. Are the sheep good or bad people? Are the goats good or bad people? Well, Jesus ends all speculation pretty quickly. We only have time to discuss the pronouncement to the sheep in this episode. We'll discuss the goats in the next episode. To the sheep, he says that they are blessed of God the Father and are called to inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. As we've seen, the kingdom in Matthew has been describing the church. So when Jesus said that the sheep, who are the righteous, will inherit the kingdom, he is speaking of the church, a spiritual church in which all the saved from all time will be present. The word church simply means a group of people who are called out. It is not some earthly organization with an earthly head. So what we find here is that each saved person will inherit or gain entrance into the spiritual kingdom. Where will this inheritance be? 1 Peter 1 verse 4 says that it will be in heaven. This is why Christians proclaim that they have the hope of eternal life in heaven, together with all the saints of all time. It is where the spiritual church will be forever, which is why you need to be added by God to his one true church before your life is over, or come the judgment day, you won't be inheriting anything. This kingdom had been prepared from the foundation of the world, meaning before creation, showing us that the church was not an afterthought, devised by God because Jesus died on the cross. It was planned before creation, even before mankind sinned. What a marvelous thing, showing us the power of God. Now, why was it that these sheep inherited the kingdom? What made them different than the goats? Jesus said that he was hungry, and you gave him food, thirsty, and you gave him drink, a stranger, and you took him in, naked, and you clothed him, sick, and you visited him, in prison, and you came to him. Now the righteous will respond, when did we do these things to you? Because after all, if Jesus is coming again, that necessitates that he had to leave. There will therefore be no opportunity to literally do these things to Jesus. Jesus' response is that if you have done it to the least of my brethren, you have done it to him. Jesus taught that we're to love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and our neighbor as ourselves. That means complete obedience. If we obey the commandments of God, God has promised us eternal life. No, this passage isn't teaching that we can earn our salvation, but it does teach that it does matter whether or not we obey God fully. For we get to the goats, the Lord willing, in the next episode. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Matthew 25, verses 41 to 46, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time.
I'm not ashamed.
Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.